We all want continence, don't we? Who wants to be peeing their pants? I want to teach you the exact basics of what you need to do to start gaining control of your bladder today. We want to prevent the leakage. If we have to constantly have a pair of pants in our car to change into, or bring extra underwear to work, and or throw our underwear away at work when no one's looking, no one wants to do that. So here are the tips that you're gonna do to start controlling your bladder today. If you follow these tips and you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. We really value your feedback and your support. So thank you so much. Here we go. The very first thing to do to gain control of your bladder is to start identifying when you leak. So if you wake up and you have to rush to the bathroom and that's the very first time you pee your pants, you might have a little bit of urgency incontinence where you get extreme urges that you can't delay. Maybe it's you leak every time you cough, sneeze, or laugh uncontrollably. You have to identify when you are getting the bouts of incontinence in order to start healing it and correcting it to get the utmost control of your bladder. So I have videos describing exactly what stress incontinence is, what urge incontinence is, and if you have a mix of both. And I will drop that video in the link below and you can go and watch that and really identify which type of incontinence do I have. Because once we identify the type of incontinence that you have, and then we start to identify when you leak, we can start to mitigate that leakage and you will start to see epic changes in your bladder control. And isn't that what we all want? So go check that out, identify when you leak, and then let's start making a program. So you can just spend a day. You probably want a day during your work week and a day on a day off or on your weekend. And I want you to keep a log of each time that you pee, whether that's you go to the bathroom and pee and or you leak. And when you start to identify through a bladder log when you are leaking, then you can start to see patterns of, okay, I seem to always leak in the morning after I have my coffee. Okay, so maybe coffee is an irritant for your bladder and it's creating more leakage. So different things you can do is maybe drink some water around that coffee and or go down to a half a cup or 1 cup. No one's gonna tell me to cut my coffee out, so just put some water around your coffee and that will help decrease the acidity inside the bladder, which can decrease the irritation, which can improve your bladder control. So it's as simple as that. So the minute you start putting this down on paper and we can see what your work week looks like and we can see what a typical day on your weekend looks like, we can start to identify patterns that can then give you control of your bladder. So let's do another example. Let's say that every time you leave to go to the office, you have to go pee just in case, because by the time you get to the office, you know that you're running in to go to the bathroom, regardless if you just peed when you left your house. And so if that's happening to you, what you want to do is make sure that you're hydrated before you go to the office. Again, neutralizing the bladder, giving you a little bit better bladder control. And then you want to practice when you pull up to the office some urge delay techniques. Instead of listening to that urge to immediately go to the bathroom when you get to the office, what can you do to distract yourself? Is it pick up a phone call and decide that you're going to ignore the urge and maybe you just start talking to someone on the phone and give yourself a little distraction? Maybe you're going to do some deep breathing to help relax your belly and your bladder and help give you better control. And or there are some squat techniques that you can practice to help mitigate those urges. So say you get out of your car and instead of running to the closest bathroom in the office, you do a couple squats, opening up your pelvic floor, and that can help decrease the urgency that you have to get to the bathroom. So there's so many ways in which we can practice improving our bladder control once we know when you are having the most leakage. Okay, in some of those examples, you just heard me talk about how the bladder loves water. Well, the second tip I have for you is to get enough water. If we don't have enough water, and a lot of times if we're peeing our pants and leaking, we're scared to drink adequate amounts of water. And if we don't have enough water, the bladder is going to become more acidic. When the bladder becomes more acidic, it spasms and can decrease our capacity increase the urgency that we always have to pee, and then also it can just cause leakage because of the spasms that the acidity is causing in the lining of the bladder and the irritation. So hands down, drink more water. You can drink your ounces of water in body weight per day. I drink a gallon of water a day, and I can control my bladder, and that is what my bodies and my muscles need. And you want to work your tolerance up to that. You don't want to just start drinking a gallon a day if you drink 2 glasses a day. We want your bladder to get used to the hydration. The more that we hydrate the bladder, the more the bladder has the capacity to hold. And the leakage is most likely not from the inability of the bladder to hold. The bladder has a miraculous ability to stretch out and hold a lot of fluid, and we just have to teach it and utilize it to do so. But if we're constantly peeing and we're peeing more than every 3 to 4 hours, we are going to trick our bladder into getting smaller, and we're not going to be able to hold as much urine, and we're going to have more leakage. So it's really important that you start to get that control today in order to really improve the continence that you want to have over your bladder. The third thing that you can do is put yourself on a schedule. So if you're peeing more than every 3 to 4 hours, or you're not peeing every 3 to 4 hours, and maybe you go 6 to 8 hours, maybe you're a teacher or a hairdresser and you're just taking client after client, you need to make yourself go pee every 3 to 4 hours. That is a healthy voiding time without getting the bladder too distended and without shrinking the bladder too much. So regardless of how much fluid you're intaking, we want you to go to the bathroom every 3 to 4 hours to void the urine inside your body, and that will help the continence. So say you're like, there's no way I'm gonna make it. I go every 30 minutes, I go every hour. Work yourself up into 15-minute intervals and really start to do that, and make sure that you are pushing it. So if you know, okay, I just made an extra 15 minutes today, can I make it an even additional 15 minutes tomorrow? And all of a sudden you are at an hour and a half between peeing. Well, then start to add on to that until you get to that 3 to 4 hour mark. See what lands for your body and what feels right. In the same vein, if you're going every 6 hours to 8 hours, you need to find a way to make yourself get freedom to go within 3 to 4 hours. And oftentimes start drinking more water, and it'll make you have to go. And we want that to happen for you. So the schedule is very important, and how you start the schedule is really up to you. And of course, we don't want to push it so you have accidents at work. So if it feels safer to start to push it so you can get on a schedule at home, then start at least when you're at home, and then you can move that to your work day. And if 15 minutes feels too aggressive at your work day, then back it down and start to go, start at a 5-minute intervals, and you'll eventually work your way there. It'll just be slower progress. But no matter what, get yourself on a healthy bladder relieving schedule, and that will help you gain continence of your bladder itself. The final tip I have for you is we have to learn how to control our pelvic floors. So our pelvic floor is this muscle. It's this beautiful muscle. It's layers of muscles, 3 layers in fact, and it controls the urination out of the vagina and out of the penis. And so if we can have a really strong pelvic floor, it can control our ability to hold our pee. Well, it's amazing. But if we don't have control of it, then we all of a sudden are walking around without the use of this muscle. And that's not helpful for anyone. And most of the time people think, I have incontinence, so I just have complete weakness. And that is not what I see clinically. Clinically, what happens is that people get so tight in their pelvic floor that they just don't have the range of motion to be continent. So it's not a weakness, and it's not like you need to go do more Kegels or, do more yoni eggs and whatever else you're sticking up there to make it a stronger pelvic floor. You don't need to do that. You need to get range of motion of your pelvic floor, because all the strength and power is gonna become from the range of motion of the pelvic floor, which is this full range of motion. And if you only are doing this range of motion, it's gonna be very, very weak, and it's not gonna allow for good bladder control. How do we get the range of motion? Great question. So join me here, and we're gonna do a breath technique in order to feel our pelvic floor open, and then exhale exhale, we'll feel our pelvic floor close. And that is how we start to work our pelvic floor range of motion. You might not be comfortable doing this in front of anyone else, and I might suggest that you do this in the privacy of your own home, and you can use your finger for digital feedback inside the vagina to see if you are getting the opening with breathing and the closing as you exhale. And so let's go into it together. I like to put a hand on my belly so I can feel the air go into my belly. So deep breath into belly. You want the air to fill the cavity of the entire belly. As you exhale, the air leaves. As you inhale, you should feel the pelvic floor also open, like you're flaring your anus open or like your vagina is opening. And then exhale, you get a recoil, and you can Kegel with that to get the sense there. And then inhale, feel it relaxing and opening, and then exhale, you get the recoil. Now again, this can be hard to do and to feel, and that's why touching the muscle and feeling it open can be so beneficial in your ability to gain control of the pelvic floor and of your bladder. And this is probably the most effective way to gain pelvic floor and bladder control. Most people, try to go the route of just doing Kegels, and it's very ineffective. And so we want to gain the range of motion. And if we do that through breathing, and at least 5 minutes of breathing a day, that can help us gain control of our pelvic floor. And if you have other questions about getting control of your pelvic floor, please like and subscribe. And we have tons of information all about healing your pelvic floor and healing incontinence. And I'll drop some of those links below as well. All right, I'm Dr. Allison Felt. Thank you so much. And I wish you the best on your journey to gain control of your bladder.